That's what it looks like to me.
Wow. Let's start streaming.
All right.
The buffer is full. And the buffer is full, and this is not Alistair. I'm rolling the intro. Hey. Oh.
Good evening, good afternoon, good right now. My name is Alistair Pugin. Apparently, what you're seeing is not really me, but a sideways view. Coming to you live from my hotel room in Mainz, Germany.
Oof. Wow. Lucky guy. It's Daryl as a service, and yeah, we had the usual technical difficulties, but because we are regarding 365, we thought we'd roll with it anyway. Right?
Well, Daryl, I don't know
Yes.
what's going in your side of the world. What I'm seeing on the screen right now is not you, but I am seeing myself in a perfectly landscaped view.
I don't know what it is either, but it's coming through on Teams, and Teams is rotated you 90 degrees anti-clockwise, and just thought, just for a bit of fun, we'd have you that way, because not only does not only do we expect people who know you and follow you, we expect you to do something wacky, but Teams just happen to flip you up as well.
I did, and the strange thing is, my iPad's in my Padcaster, and I've not flipped it horizontal. It's been, well, not portrait, it's been landscape mode for since we switched this caller.
Well, I mean, we know that you can operate that Padcaster because we saw a picture of you at SPS Zurich, hanging your face out of a window on a container room, right?
Yeah, the venue was ridiculously awesome. Biggest problem was it's all metal and there's no aircon. So that's the drawback. Either they didn't switch it on or it didn't exist, but the venue was just sublime. It's the best event venue that I've ever been to.
It looked very industrial, and I like the feel of it. We have a bunch of shops down in Christchurch, which was set up that way to create a makeshift shopping mall eventually after the earthquakes had subsided. So yeah, very cool kind of structure. Hey, let's rock on with the show. And as part of this, I know. Let's say Dan's having a well-earned break. It's Memorial Day in the States, so we may have lost our audience in the States. That's all good. I know that we have on the call Sandy Usia and Phil Rapella. Hey, you met Phil in Zurich, didn't you?
I did. He sat through my entire session and did not introduce himself.
I saw that photo of him. Hey, Phil. We just flicked to live chat there. So, and Sandy, it's good of you to join. I think Sandy's in the States, though. So thanks for joining on Memorial
No,
Day.
Sandy is 3.6 kilometers away from where I am right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sandy's from SA.
No, she's in Germany with me.
Oh, okay. Oh, how about that? All right. Anyway, sorry about all the chit chat, people. We'll, we'll flick on through to our regular show. We have the message center, and there were there weren't too many extra messages from last week. I mean, I know that there was something significant going on in SharePoint land, but most of that was covered off in blog posts because it's about roadmap and telling people what's coming and setting it up for expectations for some, if not a lot of things to be delivered to before Ignite. So, Al, your observations of the message center. I know you dip in occasionally and you have a look with Rod the Odd Modelling. What have you got in your list when you look?
So we do occasionally have a look at the message center. We don't cover the same stuff. We usually look at new trends, so it's sort of tech community posts,
Mm.
Office 365 blog posts, and those things. What I did find interesting in last week's message center, and it's actually not mentioned in the message center. They talk about the GDPR. So a big thing for us was that the GDPR has gone live May 25th.
There you go. I think I've found that announcement. So it was there, and interestingly, like we have this format in the message center which says this is a major announcement, or there isn't a major announcement. We don't have
Yeah.
GDPR in that. We actually have Microsoft Whiteboard, which we'll get to a bit later. But yeah, GDPR it says as part of Microsoft commitments, it's changing it's taking effect this week, and you'll get a few notifications about connected services. So, as I read a bit more into this announcement or message, it felt like it was more about Microsoft covering their changes to agreements around privacy, just like everyone else has been doing. Everyone else has been sending us squillions of emails and splash screen pop-ups as we start our app saying, we've changed our privacy. And this is Microsoft's equivalent. What have you seen?
So, strangely enough, everyone that went into the Security and Compliance Center on Saturday, was it the 26th? Yeah, Saturday the 26th of May would have seen an updated component to the Security and Compliance Center. There's actually a data privacy tab now.
Right.
And that has all the GDPR coolness that Microsoft has released. So there's a way to actually go to...
Is it down in reports? Security and
so
compliance. Yep. Let's open it up in another tab.
And you should, on the left, have a data privacy tab now.
Okay, I might have to zoom out a bit to give it its normal size. And there might be a first run experience. What's this green thingo? They're in reports dashboard, yes.
Well, that hasn't updated yet. I can't see your security and compliance.
Yeah, well, we're on the bottom of the world, so it's okay. We don't have to. So I ran that from.
That should have been a major update.
Yep. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. It's not just a change in Microsoft's own delivery of services, but it's also covering off the addition to the message center. I mean, rather to the administrative tools, and I would have thought that would have been big enough to make a bit of noise. But
I suppose all the announcements at the SharePoint conference last week sort of sidestepped what normally goes into the message center.
Yeah, so
once they start rolling those out, it's going to impact the message center quite heavily. You're going to get a lot of noise.
Yes, that's right. So back to that specific message. If you're using things like different Office add-ins, different SharePoint add-ins, some services like online video, when you can insert online video into different Office documents or PowerPoints, these other side services may have requested some access to private information. So that's what's updating, is just to keep you informed that they're going to be sending or pinging you with different privacy change notices, and this rolls it all up. Yeah. Now you did give us a quick spin on the GDPR session that you've been doing, and what people are beginning to face as it's coming into effect.
So it's quite interesting. There's a session that Andy Talbot did after mine that covers where Microsoft's preparations are for around the GDPR when it comes to cloud in its totality. That's a really, really, really good session. I'm actually going to steal the slides from him. My session was around how to protect content inside of your organization. So it's more around data breaches. So it's one thing to say that we understand that we need to be compliant. So the typical stuff. If you are storing EU citizen data, you need to let them know about it. You need to get their consent, and they can then decide whether or not you're going to be able to keep it. So that's the start. But what happens is there's also the breaching side. So how do you secure content in your organization, especially content that's sitting inside of spreadsheets, inside of PDF documents, inside of Word? So talking about Azure Information Protection, which is feature parity, is now being extended to the Security and Compliance Center. So when you use labeling, you're going to be able to not only retain, but also protect consuming the policies, conditions, and functionality of Azure IP inside of the Security and Compliance Center. So mine was more about how to enable what it is, how you can track documents, how you can revoke documents based on conditions. Because the biggest part of data breaches is usually it happens because of a lack of security and a disgruntled employee. So if I've got the medical records of 200,000 patients and I've exported it to a CSV and I'm working with it, I want to be able to make sure that that data is not compromised, because data leaks happen that way.
Yeah. And look, it's something as it comes into effect. I know that Microsoft have been working on it for quite some time. They've been trying to put things in place to make it easier for us to request that information, and really it sort of culminates in this GDPR getting its own portion of the Security and Compliance Center. So good to see all that work come into fruition and making it easier for us to retrieve that information, but as you say, Al, easier to protect it with Azure Information Protection. Great, thanks for that. Now, back on to some of the other messages. Like I said, there's our major updates been called out, and it said that there is Microsoft Whiteboard. Before we get to that, we'll look at a couple of others before that. There's an updated feature there around Yammer that we're able to, or you can export your information from Yammer to get almost a log or a rundown of all the messages and things going on. And this is a lot like how you can perform your search, e-discovery. Exactly. Yeah. Now, what has changed in that is any conversations that are being held by external parties who come in via external groups are not going to be included in those search results. And I think this is, again, falling in line with to try and fall in line with GDPR and being able to hand on heart say we're not keeping that information. So that's my understanding. Feel free, Steve or Angus, to correct me on that one. I know I've got one occasionally wrong with interpretation. I don't know if this one. You and I don't really do a lot in Exchange. It just works, and when we set it up, or our org set it up, it's there. But it looks like Exchange was they were doing a experiment with more information in the service health dashboard when something went down or went wrong, and they gave some figures at the time to say what the number of affected users were, almost like trying to drill in and give you that additional information of, well, this server's down, you've got this many people on it, and it's going to be affecting 20% of your users. But it wasn't accurate enough, and it seemed to be causing some confusion with some customers. So they've pulled that back. They're going to work on the feature a bit more, and we might see it again in Exchange, and potentially a similar pattern with other services in Office 365. Now, Al, have you done anything with the topic of our major update, Microsoft Whiteboard? Have you seen anything of that?
Outside of talking about it in Two Guys in SharePoint, no, I haven't had the opportunity to play with it, primarily because I've got a Surface Book. I've never used Whiteboard with a pen, and when I get an iPad Pro with a pen, what's it called, the Apple Pencil?
Yeah.
I'll have a look at the Whiteboard, but no, I haven't had. You can do the stuff in OneNote, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the questions that people asked. If they're like me, we've been putting OneNote up on a projection screen in a meeting, and we just take the notes together, and if we need to draw, we draw. But Whiteboard is I guess a step out and a step up. I call it that because Surface has its own Whiteboard built in, and that was upgraded to this Microsoft Whiteboard. Now, what they did to step out and make it available to others in the network. Catch you later, Sandy. She's buzzing off for dinner, and I guess she'll be grabbing dinner soon too. The Whiteboard is a very collaborative tool in a room. What they've done with Microsoft Whiteboard is made it available as an app so that you can install it on a Surface or a laptop and take those notes collaboratively, just like you were connected to the same whiteboard. And the difference with this is, while OneNote's great for note taking and it does synchronize and make things appear on the page, there is some delays, whereas Whiteboard is real time.
So you know the background to, well, not necessarily this whiteboard, but Microsoft owned a whiteboard tool years and years ago.
What was that called?
Well, it was actually part of Groove's virtual office that they bought.
Right.
So there was a whiteboard that you could add as an app to virtual office. And you could ideate the way you do with Microsoft Whiteboard. So it's good to see that because when they bought Groove, they turned it into SharePoint Workspace, and it never worked properly. And you couldn't have these bolt-on stuff, and it's good to see that it's come full circle. I'm hoping that they got that idea from a product that they bought initially, and not that someone sort of storyboarded this and came up with a new thing. Let's call it Microsoft Whiteboard, when Groove Virtual Office had a whiteboard 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think putting a Surface hat on, a Surface Hub hat on, they needed to update the Whiteboard app, and they extended on the thinking that, hey, let's not just make it a tool that's available right here, right now on this device in this room, but let's make it something that can be networked to get that together. And that's really where this announcement sits, is that it's coming out of preview. It's going to be, and in preview, most things, if not all, should, usually are, not turned on by default. Because if you want to join the preview, it should be your choice. Now that it's going generally available, it's going to be turned on by default. So if you want it turned off, then you'll need to turn it off. And what does it mean to turn it on in your tenant? This is what does all the connecting for different whiteboards across different Windows devices, whether they be Surface Hubs, Pros, or laptops. You sign in with your Office 365 accounts, and it's your tenant that gives you permission to do that and exchange that information. So on by default. If you don't want it on by default, and you're the sort of org that needs to turn things on gradually when you've got approvals and different teams and compliance and security teams have looked at it, then go ahead and turn it off for now.
So Daryl, is Whiteboard available in the iOS store?
No, it is just a Windows thing. It is actually a universal app. So again, we know that Surface Hub had switched to those, or had always been built on those. On
UWPs,
UWPs, exactly. Phil's got a question. Our question is, will it be the Whiteboard solution in Teams? We could kind of one whiteboard to rule them all. I don't know. I hope so. So as the meetings capabilities grow and they're getting more and more parity with Skype for Business, there is still no whiteboard. Will it become the whiteboard for Teams? Perhaps. I think with the Surface Hub 2 announcement, there's also, I know, didn't you just go, I'd love a few of those along my back wall?
15 of them in my house. I have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty keen on them as well. But I like the way that they could be just a standard kind of sketchboard that people can just use and present to and talk about it in portrait or landscape mode, and then as if by magic they could mount it on the wall and get them to connect together.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Definitely. Terminology changes. Just looking at the time, so we'll keep rocking on through these. Has it created any confusion for you, Al, when someone says distribution group or distribution list? Are you confused when someone says, well, in my distribution group, we got a message today? Did you get it confused with anything else called groups in Office 365?
I still have the same conversation when people talk about nested groups. I'm going, but Office 365 groups do not have nested groups. And then they go, I'm not talking about those groups. I'm talking about the other groups. And I'm going, well, which ones? Mail-enabled security groups or just security groups?
Correct.
That's it. It is very confusing, especially when you're dealing with administrators that actually don't live inside of Office 365. They're more on the identity management side, so they're in Azure AD all day, every day. So it does get confusing. It's same with Exchange people. So you want to create a deal. What does that mean? I mean, how does it translate to a group? I think Paul was in my session in Zurich, and the question was asked, so nested groups. And then I had to go, well, what type of group are you talking about? Because you're not going to get nested groups from Office 365 groups.
And that's exactly what they're changing, is that terminology in the Exchange Admin Center. They had a column called type. Now they're calling it group type. So they've changed the name of the column. When you've been in the habit of calling it a distribution list, continue to do so. It is a distribution list, but they are changing or moving away from calling it a distribution group. Because they want to distinguish that between Office 365 groups and your standard email functionality we've had for years of sending a copy to a message to every member of a list, not a group. Then you've got mail-enabled security, and you've got security. That looks about it. And an Office 365 group, of course. So... yeah, all a big tidy up. I guess that's about it from the Exchange change. We've had a look at GDPR and what that meant for that message. Planner integration with SharePoint team sites.
Great
Are you using Planner in some places?
We're actually using Planner inside of Teams. So it works quite well. Being able to now stick it into SharePoint is even better, because people still live inside of SharePoint. Not everyone has moved to Teams.
Yeah, and all the announcements from last week about content that you can add to a page, VR for example, but bringing that team plan, or even that just plan for your team site. Exposing it on that page is pretty important to bring that all together. Now, I think there was something else here about your users will be able to add a planner plan to a group connected to a group connected team site. So the team site has to be connected to an Office 365 group for this to work. It can't be just a standalone team site. So if you haven't groupified your team sites yet, it would be who am I to say? But to get this to work, if you want Planner to work, you need to connect it to a group. And you will then also have a new plan button on the home page of that site. So if you wanted to create a new plan, then you can go ahead and do so. I don't know how that will operate with multiple plans and what that will look like on the page, or maybe go into your web part and say, I want this plan or this plan. I'm sure that teams have many plans, don't they? Don't they?
Well, yes and no. I wouldn't say they have many plans, but you could have a team that starts off with one plan and it evolves, and then you have another plan. But do you have planlets inside of Planner? That would be my question.
Oh, I think you're talking about the, what do they call them? The task lists on a card. Or checklists on a card.
Yeah, but you group it there. You can group it by buckets. You can create buckets, right?
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, if you understand Kanban, it might work for you.
Yeah. That actually reminds me, there was was it To-Do? To-Do came out with additional tasks. I call them subtasks. Every other product calls them subtasks. To-Do calls them steps.
I call them
steps
bullet
on a card.
in a document.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So yeah, that's good news. And to your point, Planner is now available. It has been available in Teams for some time, but something that we haven't seen mentioned there, it has become available, is guest access to planners in a team. So you join a Microsoft team. The plan is now available for guest users as well. And our team will start using it in the contributors team so that we can start planning out content or putting together things for stuff like Ignite. Let's start planning that. Yeah. There were some updates to Office that comes out every month. Do check where you normally check for that. Some will be welcoming the addition of a third time zone to their calendar. I know I will. It's getting to be quite a fat left side there with 3 time zones, but that certainly helps.
Yeah, but if you check your Facebook messages, I kept on checking to make sure what actual time this thing happens that we are on right now.
Yeah,
there's some weird sort of localization that I've missed, and it's actually 2 hours before, not the 2 hours from when I started asking you about it.
I know you struggle with this, so I'm glad that you checked. We had that covered. So that's your updates to your monthly tasks to your Office, and then your to-do list sharing. So remember. The Wunderlist team came and joined Microsoft, and they recreated To-Do from scratch. They didn't take the code and jig it a bit, but they built To-Do from scratch. A lot of people were saying, well, To-Do, I still like to share my tasks. Now you can. So you'll be able to share your tasks rolling out in early June, and use that as a way of just sort of almost like the OneDrive for task management. It is for me. It is for me and Al. But if we're getting bigger and want to sort of start coordinating tasks with a team, then use Planner, and that's certainly a better approach.
I wonder if Lorian is going to move his entire family across to To-Do now that he's got subtasks and sharing. Because I'm sure he mentioned something about he's always used Wunderlist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I do remember him saying that. He was not really keen because he wanted to continue to share tasks. I know that some people are...
Shopping list things,
Yeah. I'd looked at a couple of others. I'd looked at Todoist. I think I saw Steve Goodman using it, and I checked it out for a bit.
Todoist is good.
Yeah, yep. But whatever it is, make a list, get stuff done, whether it be Planner in a To-Do, a Todoist, a voice note to whatever your voice assistant is on your phones, and just get stuff done. And we've got stuff done. We've got through the Message Center. We're about at time. Any parting comments, Al, before you get off to enjoy wherever you are in the world? Germany?
Mainz in Germany. It's about 38 kilometers out of Frankfurt, sort of west, not west, south. So cool. It's about a 20-minute train ride. Yes, CoLab Summit kicks off tomorrow and Wednesday. Well, they started today. 1,500 attendees. 1,500 attendees. It's the largest community-driven event, probably in the world. So I'm super amped. We're going to be broadcasting through the CoLab Summit YouTube page tomorrow and on Wednesday. So just look for CoLab Summit on YouTube. You'll find myself and Andy Talbot doing a whole bunch of things over the next 2 days, live streamed.
Very cool. We might try and drop on some of the clips to a playlist on the Regarding 365 YouTube site, so just to see what you guys have been up to.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Al, for joining me, stepping in for the bearded one who could not make it.
Young Daniel. He's on a lake somewhere with a boat.
Oh, yeah, good on him. Yeah, I wouldn't mind being on a lake with a boat as well, or a paddleboard, as Jeff Shuey has introduced me, and I've totally got bitten by that bug. Well, that was Regarding 365, the week that was. Again, thank you, Al, for joining us. Do check out our stories. We've got a couple of, or 1 or 2 new people that have joined and are sharing their stories. We've seen Sarah Haase. She's beginning to put some stories out there. And Brad Grissom from Southwest Airlines is going to bring a fresh viewpoint. He's just starting the Office 365 journey. He's been a digital workplace type person for some time, and looking forward to hearing his viewpoints and reading his stories. That was Message Center of the week that was. We'll catch you again. Al, enjoy your time over there.
Cheers, mate.
Bye for now.